All right.
Hey, any of y'all got the NFL Sunday ticket this year through YouTube?
Not yet, but I'm gonna get it.
You're gonna do it?
Yeah.
You're gonna do it?
I was just talking to my buddy about that because I don't know very little about it. I'm going to get my daughter to download the YouTube for me on my smart TV. But he was saying that they don't have the game mix anymore, which I like. That's what I like.
They don't have the game? Oh, well,
Yeah.
purpose.
So I think the NFL is actually doing like a red zone now.
But the NFL mix is what I used to watch, where it's like 8 screens.
Oh,
and I was just, my wife make fun of me all the time. I'm just sitting on my TV just doing this.
She's like, "How are you watching?" Yeah.
That's what works for me though.
He said it's going to be multi-view, where you can put 4 games on.
Yeah, you can
so you might have to get a second TV.
And you have to get a second TV, and you can log into different account, or you can log into the same account on different devices. I think you have like a certain, like maybe 2 or 3. So you may have to have 2 to get all games.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right now they have a $50 off, I think.
See, you want to know my problem is?
What?
I've had DirecTV since 2010, and since 2012 they gave it to me free every year.
Yeah.
Every single year. So paying $300, $50?
It's hard to pay for.
I don't know how much it
Yeah.
is. Is it 300?
It's $350.
350.
350, or it's 300 with the discount.
That's a lot, man.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had
earlier they had a $100 discount.
I used to get it free.
I know. I used to get the student discount. I used to call my brother like, "Look, I need that. I need a student email address.
Email.
Like, did you just win a bunch of? Give me the student email.
I need a loan.
Yeah, that's a $350. Come on now. So what are you?
Let's just take a ride along the bay. We don't need to work. We can sit around and play. I've been waiting for so long to get away. Baby, don't hold back. All you gotta do is say, what would you like to be satisfied with me?
Welcome to First and 15, the only podcast that's trying to get you paid. I'm here with 2-time FFPC champion AB. Next to him is my guy, Dio the Machine. Guys, we don't bring anybody on this couch, but we decided to bring Dave Hubbard here, legend in the fantasy game. Listen, we're excited. Listen, let's talk some football for a second.
Let's get to it.
Listen, JT has been the guy who has dominated the headlines as of late. But my question to you guys is JT a better fantasy player on the Colts or somewhere else, the field? It's almost like Tiger Woods, right? Tiger of the field. Yeah. Is it the Colts or the field? Like, who are you taking for the highest value for JT?
I'm gonna get to that question. I just want to get back to Dave real quick because I got to get this out.
All right.
I am like very, very excited to have this man on the couch.
Yes.
I mean, if you drafted in any type of high stake league, like, you know who this guy is.
Yes.
And if you have not, like, you got to learn who he's got, like, learn who he is. Sometimes I feel like I'm happy that you're in a draft because I'm like, all right, let me see what he's doing.
You can learn a little bit. Like, let me see what he's doing.
Because he's going to do something that is very different, very unique, especially like in the later rounds. I'm like, okay.
Write that down real quick.
Yeah. I don't want to be in too many of your drafts, but I want to be in just enough to where I'm like, okay. Like, because, I mean, it really, like, being able to, like, kind of learn from guys who are just, like, who've been in the game a while, who clearly know their shit, like, who clearly are elite drafters, elite in-season managers, just like, you can tell, like, you know the game. It's not just about, like, drafting. It's not just about fantasy football. Like, you can clearly tell, like, you know the game. You know the nuances. Like, you can read through the tea leaves. You know, you're kind of ahead of the curve. So to have you on the couch right now, like, I mean,
Live a legend,
we love
man.
it. We love it.
Live a
Yeah.
legend.
The feeling is mutual, and I've always wanted to do the only pod that gets you paid. So I'm sitting here with Dio and Abib, and everything they echo. I echo the same thing about them. First time I met Original Chris. First time I met Abib, I met Dio before, but it's an honor and a privilege to be here on this set, and hopefully we can provide some knowledge that'll help some people do better in the drafts. But everything will be back.
This has been the making for a couple years. You know, we've been trying to make this happen.
Yeah, so let's talk JT.
Okay, yeah.
All right, because I want to know, like, should I stop drafting because he's probably going to be off the Colts?
Yeah.
Or should I be waiting and maybe hop into a few more drives?
Yeah, I had an initial take on this, like, once all this started to kind of unfold. You know, Jim Irsay said what he said, and then all the news kind of came out. I think immediately in my mind, I was like, he's going to get traded? Oh, great. Like, I felt like him on the Colts for the most part. I mean, there's always a situation here or there, but I felt like him on the Colts for the most part was like, almost kind of close to his floor. You know, you could talk about the rushing ability of Anthony Richardson and potentially stealing some rushing TDs. They brought over, you know, the Philly offensive coordinator Steichen, and you saw that what do they call it, the tush push? Like, I mean, so you know that's a potential, you know, issue for JT when they get, you know, down the goal line inside the 5 of him stealing those touchdowns, stealing the rushing yards. But then also, you know, the offense as a whole is a question mark, you know? It's a question mark. So if he goes someplace with a better offense, you know, you talked about all rising tides lift all ships, however the saying goes.
Right.
But so
We'll get it one day.
Yeah, I'll get it one day. One day. I mess that up every year. So yeah, for me, I felt like, give me the feel. Give me the feel. I don't know. What you think?
100% agree with that. I think the Colts is definitely his floor. I heard today the Eagles, which I don't know if that's any better for his floor. I think that he might find himself in another two down situation. So I think Miami would be the ultimate spot for JT to reach his ceiling. He'll be good wherever he's at, but I think the Colts where he was priced and now the animosity he has with the coaches and the organization. I don't think he'll give 100% this year anyway. So even if the Colts did sign him, and I don't think they're going to pay him. The problem with JT is, and I read a very smart guy say that it's going to be almost impossible to trade him. It's going to be in this situation he's in currently. Another team being able to give up what they need to give up to get him, where Irsay, and I think Irsay's a very sharp guy, and he told JT, okay, go out there to the trade market. He's already tried to trade him, but he knows what the market is. So I think it's going to be very hard to move JT. I'm going to be surprised if he gets moved. I hope he does, just for football and for him. But I think it might be next year.
I got 3 rapid fire questions for you. You're in underdog best ball. Where are you taking them? Like, where do you feel comfortable? Okay, now is a value. Now one of the
Full disclosure, I haven't taken JT once this year. I don't like situations. I don't like situations that are murky, and I saw that coming. Jacobs is the same way. Say Jacobs shows up week 1. People are paying a 3rd-round price for Jacobs, right? Majority of the time. Sometimes it sneaks into 4th. Zamir White's been there the whole time. Last year, the reason people faded Jacobs was because of Zamir White. So now the coach sees Zamir White, right? And Zamir White's out there busting his ass, doing what he needs to do the right things. And the kid's super talented. I mean, you could argue kid might be as talented as Jacobs. So now he's been there the whole time with the team. McDaniels historically has been a quarterback, a coach that has used multiple running backs, right, in his history. He's shown that everywhere he's been. Last year, for whatever reason, he stuck with Jacobs. Jacobs had his career year. Jacobs got a ton of touches. Jacobs is a back immediately that I'm going to look at, hey, I better fade this dude because he got so many touches that not going to miss. Now, he's missed all the training camp. And historically, if you look at running backs that have missed all training camp, they've underperformed every time. So him and JT have a lot of stuff working against them to reach their ceiling in 2023. Is my take on it. And I haven't drafted either one of them. And I got a lot of money in the game.
But guess what?
And I don't either.
That take is nowhere out there. Like the way that you just kind of delivered that, or just a thought process, like this is why I think like unless you have like actual skin in the game, like it's hard for you to get that far. It's hard, I think, for you to like dive deep and like really kind of get into the weeds of it to really kind of make an informed decision. Because for me, like I don't really find out if I'm on a guy or off a guy until like I'm drafting. Like, you know, you're getting ready to click that button. Dale's had an interesting take on JT.
No, I mean, here's my question, right? With the Colts, he's the bell cow, right? You agree? He's not sharing. What team can he go to where he's going to be the bell cow day one? Because it's like every option I've seen, he's going to share with somebody. And not to say he won't do well, but if you start saying, okay, bell cow role compared to, you know, a committee, and just face value, you'll say, that decreases value, right? So, I don't know. My question for y'all is if he gets traded, because it sounds like y'all think if he gets traded, it's a better situation. Does that make his ADP go up? Like, are y'all drafting him higher then? Or
I just speak for the masses, not for myself. The minute he gets traded to Miami,
he's going to go up.
His ADP is definitely going up.
Oh, yeah.
So, if you own him at 310, like Abib has a lot of JT early, you might reach that value. 310 is not a bad price. But there's still A-Chain, the young kid. He's small, but man, they got him for a reason. He got hurt, but he's still electric. And the coach there likes Jeff Wilson, likes Wilson. He'll sprinkle them in, even if he has JT.
Exactly.
So, but I think JT would definitely reach a higher ceiling in Miami than he'll ever reach in
Indianapolis. What happened with Dalvin Cook since he signed? Has his ADP dropped? Or
It's dropped.
It's just, he's a weird guy. He's one of those guys you talk about. I did a draft earlier. He went 7th round.
Yeah.
You do a draft 2 hours later.
Yeah.
He goes in the late 9th round.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with people that do ADP drafting this year that I see.
There's no
and we talked
strong
about
ADP.
that pre-show is that there's no strong ADP established. There's ranges on guys that go in the 3rd round and you might get them in the 6th round. I did a draft the other night. Aaron Jones. Never in all main events I've seen lives in the 4th round, right?
Pretty much.
From the end of got him at 512. So that's what I'm talking about. The year 2023 is the weirdest year in fantasy drafting I've ever experienced. So if you're an ADP drafter, it's hard to get your board set up where I know I'm going to take this guy if he falls 2 packs. Well, you might get you taking that guy, and then the other guy picks a guy off that went 2 rounds later. So it's a tough year to draft if you're not don't have strong convictions.
So here's another thing. Let's go back to JT. Are we concerned at all about the injury?
I don't know.
I mean, okay, so we all saw the clips, right? Yeah. Those first initial clips of him and standing around in practice, it almost looked like he was limping.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It was just something off. I don't know if he was just embellishing it, but it just looked like the gait was just off a little bit.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they said he had to go home to
for some
rehab
personal matters, right?
But I just remember him leaving to go rehab or get some kind of second opinion. Yeah. It's like, are we talking about the same ankle injury that he dealt with last year?
Yeah.
Shouldn't that be behind him, or what's going on there?
Yeah.
He could still be lingering injuries, but some of that stuff, him and the coaches might have had a falling out. The coach said it'd be best if you didn't leave for a couple of days. So, I mean, instead of us blowing up, and they know JT is not happy. Yeah. And the coaches aren't happy with him because what do the coaches want to do? They want to win. And they know he's their best player. They want him out there. So.
I won't lie. He's like the ultimate, like, just kind of like lazy analysis, like, or lazy draft value click. Like, he's JT. He's just JT. And, oh, man, he could sign anywhere. He could do this. Like, oh, he's just doing it because, he wants to get out of Indy. Yeah. 310.
He's done it before.
401. Like,
it makes you think.
Just let me click. Just let me click. And it's lazy, but like, man, like that small chance that it hits.
I call it the classic trap click. I look back and when I'm setting my lineups in December and I'm shaking my head and say, why does Steve underperform?
Why did he do that?
Because I got trapped here, and here. 90% of the time when you look back at your team, it ain't nothing you did on the waiver wire. It's not how you set lineup. A lot of times it's a simple fact that you took the wrong players at the wrong spot.
So Sunday I was just like, he fell down there. Him and Jacobs fell down, and I was like, you know what? I'll let fate decide. And luckily, like, he got taken because I was like, I got plenty of JT. I don't need any more landmines potentially.
I saw a draft where you did that.
So real quick, one more thing somebody said that just kind of stuck to me. I'll just see what y'all think. Somebody said they think, going back to the injury part, they think he might still slightly be injured, and he wants to get that contract secured before he returns, so he can't decrease his value by playing on that injury. Yeah, you think there's
it's an odd injury. Everything that I've read with regard to that injury is like he should have been like healed up by now. And if he wasn't, like, then he would probably be like having some type of procedure or cleanup.
Did he do his procedure? I don't know. Did he do surgery?
I think he had surgery.
They said he had a small procedure on it, but I mean, it's a guessing game. And I like to, when I'm drafting for high stakes money, if you're in a confined league for $10K, or if you're doing $2,000, a lot of money. It might not be the beat now, but that's a lot of money.
Still a lot of money, man.
So when you're doing a $2,000 draft and you clicking injured players or players with a lot of question marks, why put that much risk? There's what I've learned in drafting. If you really analyze the draft, there's always a guy similar to that guy in that range that you could be, especially if you're a volume drafter, that you should be saying, hey, I should have a little bit of this guy.
You never just need that guy.
Is we get a little bit of stubbornness about us, and we get sold on a player, and we just keep clicking, and we know everything, right? But there's always in those ranges. I've heard y'all talk about tiers and stuff. I really don't get into tiers, but it's the same philosophy. There's players in certain ranges that could reach the outcome of the guy that you're stuck on, and you just keep drafting.
So we talked about Miami for a second. Let's assume that JT doesn't go to Miami. What are you guys doing with that backfield? I mean, like, is it Jeff Wilson? Is it Mostert? Are you betting on A-Chain, like, eventually taking a job?
J-Dub. Because he's going so late. You're getting a guy that can have so much value that you're getting in the double-digit rounds, and everybody just ignoring him. And we could easily see Jeff Wilson get that type of role where he's the bell cow. Mostert might get hurt, or Mostert might be used more in the passing game. A-Chain might still be figuring it out. Like you said the other day, A-Chain's playing special teams right now. So
yeah,
he's not really
special teams. He's like 5th on the depth chart or something like that.
So he doesn't even have a real role right now. And A-Chain's going with 9th round or something like that.
Now he's hurt, but they're all relatively cheap.
Cheap
options. Right?
Yes.
So when you see A-Chain there in the 11th or 12th round. That's what I'm talking about, ranges.
Yeah.
I like Jeff Wilson. Kid's a Texas kid from a small town that knew how to grind.
North Texas, right?
Yeah, he grinded his way and made it to the 49ers.
Yeah.
And then he followed the coach. The coach likes him. He
Traded for him.
Traded for him.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of good options there. So you can have a little bit of
And
A-Chain.
they re-signed him.
Yeah.
They re-signed him. They traded for him and then re-signed him.
He has some talent too. He's not like a.
So who you liking?
Yeah.
Who you
Me
liking?
personally?
Yeah.
I own a little bit of A-Chain and a little bit of Jeff Wilson in certain drafts.
Mostert no?
No. Mostert doesn't fit my profile of drafting running backs.
Same,
Older guy, right?
Yeah.
Always been a freak. I liked him when he first come out of college.
Yeah.
But I don't like 30, 33-year-old running backs. I mean, I don't make a living doing that, right?
Injury prone too.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I think I was very high on A-Chain, like coming out a little too high, a little too overzealous, and definitely have like backed off. Like
he's a small kid.
Yeah, he is. Preseason usage thus to date, like that's a situation where I have like found myself, okay, I'm believing what I'm saying. Not that he necessarily won't be of value or be valuable in season at some point, but where he was going, I think it was a little too high. So I'm falling back and just like.
And then get your free agent money ready because the coach will have some in a med out there doing his thing. So you never know.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was asking them in a group chat this past weekend. Do they envision anybody potentially dropping A-Chain this season? Do you think so?
Definitely, if he starts out slow. I mean, it happens every year. I mean, players. Joe Burrow was dropped in the main event. The guys that won the main event.
That's what I was trying to tell you.
They wouldn't have won the main
Joe
event.
Burrow.
But in the league, that's one thing about tournament play that people don't understand is you don't have any control over what happens in other leagues. The waiver wire is out of your control.
It hurts.
So they picked up Joe Burrow and they happen to have Chase on the team, right? And so automatically people paid the price for Burrow, 8, 9, whatever you paid for him. They got him off the waiver wire. Paired him with Chase, hit Magic,
and won it all.
Won it all.
Oh my God.
The thing with A-Chain's a local kid, by the way. He went to a Fort Bend school. Track guy though. He's always been small. Even from high school, he's been small. A&M, I don't think he was maybe he was the bell cow last year.
He played in between the tackles at A&M. Like he ran hard.
Yeah.
Maybe he ran a little too hard.
He rotated.
Yeah, he rotated. And Spiller was there the year before.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I always felt like he really couldn't take that every down role.
Yeah.
I think what increases value the most is just the fact that he went to the Miami Dolphins and everybody's talking about McDaniel was beating the table for him in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
So it's almost like if McDaniels wants him, then McDaniel must have a certain role for him, and they're potentially high value in fantasy.
Yeah.
But in reality, man, do we really think he can be the guy?
This is the thing. I think when I envisioned drafting A-Chain and him helping me out throughout the season, it wasn't like this guy that I thought was going to be getting 15 to 20 touches. It was a running back that was going to be in a system where both Hill and Waddle were on the field. And defenses were just like, we got to stop these guys out. And he was just having lanes to run through. You haven't seen that in preseason because Waddle has not played in preseason.
You saw it on the one run.
Yeah, you saw it on the one run, but like
when he got hurt.
Yeah, he got hurt. But imagine if Waddle and Hill are out there. Things just seem to probably open up a little bit, and they started using them a little bit in the passing game. So I think the Miami backfield will be one in which like somebody, one guy's gonna be hurt. One guy's gonna like catch fire for a couple games, then it'll just kind of rotate.
Yeah.
And you just gotta be smart and have and be accurate on when you start which one.
You have to figure out.
Tough.
Yeah. You gotta time it.
Yeah. I don't like that.
Okay, if they don't get hurt. If all the guys are there, when are you going to feel comfortable really playing him?
I think Jeff Wilson as a second running back, you might be comfortable a lot of weeks because I think the coach is going to give him the most.
No, Wilson, I'm comfortable. I'd start Wilson week
A-Chain is more of a you got to wait and see. There's a lot of guys like that in the NFL, and that's why you talked about waiver wire early. That's why you find guys on the waiver wire shouldn't be on the waiver wire.
Exactly.
Because people get tired of them and they get bored, and then all of a sudden the second half of the year.
And that's kind of what I was alluding to.
I mean, I got Tyreek Hill off the waiver wire when I won the main event. Yeah, for $1.
Stop.
So
for $1.
They talk about waiver wire. They talk about waiver wire. Yes. The
was
year
it
I
his
won the
rookie
main
year or
event,
something?
No, second year.
You won in 2016, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was the second year, right?
I don't remember.
Probably but so. He was on the waiver wire in week 14, and I didn't have a running back. I built a weird team, and it had 2 tight ends, and it only had one receiver all year, Julian Edelman. Never really had a second receiver on the team the whole year.
Wow.
They always talk about zero wide. They always talk about receiver, right? This team had one wide receiver the whole year, and it got hot there. And you know how the shootout works. Done it twice. it picked up Tyreek Hill for $1. I'll never forget that. He went nuts in the shootout.
Oh, yeah.
He averaged like 20 points in the shootout.
crazy.
He got him for $1. So the waiver wire is very important, is my point in fantasy football.
But that reminds me of, again, we brought this up maybe 2 or 3 times during this during this season. Dio and his Jared Goff, man. Having Jared Goff on his side. I mean, like, top 5 team.
Waiver wire is important.
I've seen you in leagues, man, and we can talk about this later, how you go about doing your waiver wire ad. But I see you put dollar bids on so many players that I'm like, the next week it's like a guy I won, and I look back and I'm like, how did he know to take this guy with a dollar bid?
It's grinding, man. I have a sickness when it comes to football, and literally I don't sleep. And I also talk to some very sharp people that I beat some ideals off of that have been very successful in football, and we have a good relationship. And so that also helps. I mean, y'all have that. Y'all and Dale, y'all talk all the time. So if you got somebody you trust and that you think they're really sharp, it helps to bounce ideas off of. We found gems in the rough doing that. Because I'm a film guy. I'm not a stats-driven drafter at all.
Same thing. That was one
if they don't pass the film test, I don't care what your stats say, I'm not drafting him. And there's people that have defied the film test, right? Jordan Howard. Didn't like Jordan Howard. I said he's terrible. He somehow had one great year. Have you ever seen him again? No, you never seen him again. So it can happen. They can defy the film eye test, but very few guys do. I mean, Jamal Charles, he's a film. You see him on film, you say, "Golly, this guy's ridiculous." And there's some running backs this year that nobody talks about. Might not talk about them on this pod. I got a few more drafts. But there's some running backs this year that passed the film test that we're sitting here right now, and we're talking about Jeff Wilson 18. And at the end of the year, we're going to be talking about these cats because they defy the film.
Give us one.
Give us one. Just give us one.
The worst one. The one at the very bottom.
I'll give you one of my favorites, Elijah Dotson.
This kid, he stole it from it.
This kid, I didn't know who Elijah Dotson, and I watch film like crazy. And somehow this coach finds Elijah Dotson, right? Eckler's an older guy, right? People don't want to admit that. They just draft an Eckler first round every time. Eckler, I'm going to take Eckler number 3 overall. And there's nobody else in the draft. But on every NFL team, almost every NFL team, there's guys like Elijah Dotson, right? But people ain't never heard of him, don't know anything about him. I didn't know anything about the kid. But if you watch film on Elijah Dotson, he'll jump off the page at you. Another kid for the Green Bay Packers. I'll give you a few. Emmanuel Wilson. Nobody talks about this kid. Aaron Jones, older guy, right? A.J. Dillon. Never done nothing in the NFL, if you want to be honest about it.
Pretty much.
Emmanuel Wilson's a freak show. So all of a sudden at the end of the year, you're saying, damn, Emmanuel Wilson's got 300-yard games at the end of the year. Where he come from? So that's what I'm saying. You got to grind. High-stakes fantasy football is not easy. There's a lot of sharp people, man.
We putting this behind a paywall. This is pay-per-view.
So let's stick on that for a second, right? So players like that you're mentioning, because all those players right now we could say is probably 3rd, 4th on the depth chart.
Like, you could say that, but maybe it's not true.
Right.
That Chargers situation, they are really trying to figure that out.
What has Josh Kelly done? And does he look good to you?
No.
Spiller
does he look good in the
either.
preseason?
No.
Isaiah Spiller was a decent running back at college. He wasn't
he wasn't.
This Elijah Dotson kid is a freak show, and the coach knows it. Watch him. Go back and watch the game when he made that run. The coach on the sideline jumping up and down, and that dude thinks he's the smartest guy in the NFL. I promise you.
So my question though is, players like that, if they don't, pop week 1. How long are you willing to hold them till you say, okay? Well,
potentially where I get them, I'll hold them all year.
You hold them all year?
If I believe in a guy, I hold them all year. So unless something happens on my roster and I can't hold them, then I cut them and look for the next guy.
Got you.
But guys like that I truly believe in, that I think maybe might be like Jamal Charles.
Once you see the talent, you
I'll just hold on to it. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
Okay.
But both, that's just 2 examples. And I'm happy for
that's
you.
good. Those are good examples.
Those 2 cats, to me, when I watch film, and the other kid I really liked, I give you a few. I don't really care at this point. The other kid that I really like.
This is what this does to you.
The other kid I really like is Keaton Mitchell, right? And he's fast. I have him on 100 teams in the 350s because I really liked his film. I thought but the problem with him is you got to see if the coach trusts the kid, right? Does he trust him in pass pro? Or does he not trust him? He might have all the time in the world, and you see this guy fly, you say, why don't this coach play this guy? Well, he can't pick up a butch, and Lamar Jackson getting killed, so he can't play him, right? But there's a lot of I bring those guys up because just to tell people out there, they get hung up on the reading their magazine or whatever. But if you're doing high-stakes fantasy football and you're not doing film study and you're not running by guys that you trust, you're probably not going to win in the long run. I mean, you might have some fluky years where you get lucky and you win something, But to sustain success, you better be grinding film and you better be talking about situations and players.
So, and I'm sorry, I'm going totally off the
No, man, keep going.
I love talking football.
So, how valuable is the preseason games to you? Like the actual games?
I'm gonna tell you, it's not that valuable to me,
There you
but
go.
some guys that I trust is real valuable to them.
Yeah.
So what I do is I watch the preseason and then I'll ask that guy, hey, man, what do you think about the offensive line
Yeah,
there?
okay. He's
What
like
do you
me
think about
then.
that? So I don't love the preseason because I've already watched tape on 90% of these guys.
Yeah.
But now, like Elijah Dotson, he came from a small school out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Never heard of this kid. And then I got to watching his college when he was at Sacramento College and he went to Northern Colorado. I said, Jesus Christ. This kid's got a skill set that translates to the NFL. So.
I was telling y'all about Dotson, and I know y'all don't remember it, right? Because
We
it's-
drafted him.
Yeah.
No,
I
no,
drafted
no,
him,
no,
and then he sniped me.
I was telling y'all about Dotson like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Because I know y'all don't play on Sleeper.
Yeah.
If you-
No,
if you
I don't do any underdog
Okay.
sleeper. I
So
subcontract
Sleeper
off
has like a page where they have players that are trending.
Yeah.
You know, I'm always sending y'all these
Yeah.
screenshots.
Right,
of that.
right.
There was Dotson at the top, like in June.
Yeah.
And I was like, who the hell is Elijah Dotson? That's what I put in the group chat, like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
And that's what made me go look at his tape. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this guy's due. But at the same time, I was like, man, how's this guy going to make the team? He's an undrafted
Yeah.
He
guy.
gonna make the
And now that I'm seeing it, like, yeah, he looks good.
Yeah.
So,
Man. So you sent me like a text about Kyler that basically says that Kyler needs to essentially be activated
off the PUP.
right, like in about 7 days, in about a week
It's the
before
24th,
he has
right? Because they were talking, or maybe it might be 24th.
No, not the 24th is today.
Is it?
No, today's 23rd. They said it was 7 days, and that was yesterday, right?
7 days from yesterday.
So
that means, but either way, so about a week. Let's say about a week.
Yeah.
He needs to be activated.
Otherwise, he
within a
stays
week,
on the PUP.
or he stays on the PUP for 4 weeks, just like
yeah.
the normal PUP works. How do you guys feel about that offense if he's not activated? Like, we saw some videos of Marquise Brown not being able to get any separation.
1v1.
We have some James Conner. Like, how do you guys feel with, Kyler not being in that offense and drafting anybody on that team?
Yeah. So we talked about James Conner. I feel like it's a kind of a cop-out answer. It just kind of depends on the team. And I think, like, when I draft him, especially early on when he was going in the 8th, to me, he's like, we talk about the free look guys, with KC and the Lions. To me, he's like an extended free look guy. Because ideally, like, you get him for like 3 to 4 weeks at the very least. And that's just a guy, like, I'm probably starting him week 1. Like, I'm probably starting him week 1, and then I can figure out what are guys like Elijah Moore going to do? How does Gabe Davis look? How does Zay Flowers look? What is Rashad Bateman doing? All these guys that people are drafting, they're like assuming that they're going to be automatic starters, and we have no clue how they're going to perform.
Yeah.
I love putting James Conner. And if he makes it through the entire year, boom, like potential like league winner at that value.
Yeah.
But I'm just not assuming that at this stage. Marquise Brown, I put in the group chat. I said, what are we doing with Marquise
I
Brown?
meant to ask you about that.
Yeah, I was like, what are we doing with Marquise Brown? Because I was like a Marquise Brown 2 years ago. Like, I was a huge fan. And then last year, I was like, nah, I can't do it. Not with D-Hop. I'm out. And then this year, I'm just like, at first I was like, oh, man, he's like the number 1 wide receiver. But I can't bring myself to click the button. And then I watched him 1v1 against a corner. I'm sorry. When you're a 1v1 versus a corner as a wide receiver, a number 1 wide receiver, you should never lose. Okay?
Yeah.
I don't want to take too much from one clip, but I'm taking a lot from that clip.
It's almost like fate. Like, you question it, and then the next clip you saw, like, oh, okay, this is God telling me no. I shouldn't have drafted
Because I
this
sent
guy.
that question out before, and then I saw the video, and I was like, oh my God, okay, this is it. This is it.
You want to speak on it?
The Cardinals are got a horrible O-line.
Yeah.
James Conner's a decent price in high stakes fantasy football right now. He's probably the only. I won't say he's the only guy because Michael Wilson's a guy that kind of intrigues me at his price, and he's a big kid and looks like he might be their number 1 wide receiver. And he goes,
And that's what I wanted to tell you.
Yeah.
Michael Wilson is the guy that makes me nervous about Hollywood.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'll let you finish.
No,
but
go ahead. Go ahead.
let's not. You talking about Kyler as far as it's going to hurt the offense? Don't sleep on Clayton Tune. Go Cougs. He looks good, man. And Clayton Tune, he won the Manning Academy quarterback thing last year, going into college, which is why us U of H people were so excited about him.
Yeah.
He didn't do that great this season, but he has talent.
Yeah.
And I don't think Colt McCoy is any good. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Tune gets the job early, and he's a gunslinger.
Yeah.
He's going to throw that rock. So it might help Hollywood, even if Kyler's not there. You know?
I think they're going to want to just. they want to run. Like I think like that offense, like from everything that I've read, you know, from where the OCs come, I think they want to just run. And the GM wants them to not win.
Okay.
The coaches obviously and the players want to win. But I think they just want to run. The issue is like I don't think they're going to be able to do that. Like it's just going to be a
have to
bad
pass
team.
the ball.
Like
Who's their OC, or where's he come from?
what's the guy's name? I always blank on this guy.
Is he the guy from Cincinnati? Like the
He's been with Kevin Stefanski
From the Browns.
From the Browns.
Yes, okay.
And then I think he also spent some time with one of the Philly guys at one point. Who's it? What's his name? Drew Petzing. Yeah, that's his name. Yeah. But he's never been an offensive coordinator. He's never called plays on his own. So it's, you know.
It's a lot of red flags.
Yeah, it's a lot of red flags. It's a lot of red flags. Like, not calling plays to me is like a big thing. Like, yeah, you could like succeed at it, but if you've never done it, like, I feel like that's a huge thing.
I see what he's doing.
No. I'm not going there.
I see what you're doing here.
But like, even like the Texas guy, like, if you've never called plays, like, it's not to say that it's gonna be terrible, but like, if you never call plays, you never call plays.
There's gonna be a
like
learning curve there.
There's a learning curve.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know. I don't know how good you're gonna be. There's a certain like.
There's a rhythm to it.
Yeah.
Good ones have a rhythm. I mean, they keep it flowing.
That was a B enemy.
That was not a B enemy. That was not a B enemy.
That was a B enemy.
Yeah, come on now.
I see you. I see you.
You're taking me.
Take your mind out the gun.
How do you feel about Hollywood?
Hollywood,
Because his value, what is he in the 7th round right now?
Yeah, he's
6th,
late.
7th round.
Yeah.
I have a hard time pushing the
Have
button.
a hard time?
Real hard. With the guys that are around him there, I have a real hard time pushing the button. Like, there's a draft he's got there on the screen.
Yeah, he's
Hollywood.
early 7 in this one, and this is one of the drafts that
7th
we're going to
round.
talk about later. But yeah, so he's
701 in this
early
one.
7.
Yeah. Give me Jahan
I'll take-
Dotson.
I'll take
George
Dotson,
Addison,
Addison,
James Flowers, Gabe Davis, Elijah Moore, Sky Moore,
I'll
Michael
take all of
Pittman.
them dudes.
Michael Thomas. I take all of them.
Give me Michael Thomas. Give me one-legged Michael Thomas.
That's a bad offense. I mean, he might, you know how bad offenses work, though. They might get behind and he might catch some garbage time, but it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be, I don't think he has a ceiling. So,
If it wasn't a bad team, though, like if it wasn't like a team that just like, it made all the sense in the world for them to just like tank. It makes all the sense in the world for them to tank. Like if it wasn't that bad of a team, then I wouldn't have an issue with it. But like you brought up Michael Wilson, like I love smashing the button on Michael Wilson late, and you just keep him. And he's gonna be a guy I'm gonna be picking up throughout the season because in my mind I just see it right now. Like weeks 15, 16, and 17, their offense is gonna be garbage. They're gonna be like Clayton Tune's gonna be starting, and he's just gonna be slinging it to Michael Wilson. Like you can
Rookies
like
came in together.
like
and
that just
everything
seems
got
like
their
such an
rapport.
obvious thing that's gonna happen, you know?
And not only Michael Wilson, but don't sleep on Rondell Moore is still there. They like Greg Dortch. Remember that time last year, Greg Dortch had like 3-4 game stretch where he just killing it.
Yeah, but how small
Greg Dortch
can a
is like the
receiver
Ricky-
room get? I mean, like, can he really survive?
Smallest offense in the NFL, man.
Those slot receivers,
Rondell,
man.
it looks like Rondell's snap share is going to go down. Especially with Ertz back, and they might play McBride and Ertz together.
That's what I was getting at. That they
with
want to
Michael
run.
Wilson, so,
They're gonna be running a lot of 12 personnel, a lot of two tight end sets, maybe 3 tight end
so
sets.
you might have games where Rondell's just completely phased out this year. So he goes real late. But.
Yeah, he does.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Jags for a second. Listen, Calvin Ridley is back this season. Christian Kirk was their receiver 1 last year. Evan Ingram is still with a slot receiver, essentially a slot tight end is what I like to call him. Listen, what do we do with Calvin Ridley? Like, how do you guys see Calvin Ridley in that offense? What should we do with Calvin Ridley? Is he gonna be the alpha in that receiving room?
I don't know, Dave.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be totally honest about this take here. When I first evaluated it, I said no Calvin Ridley, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But then I started watching preseason, and it looks like Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a great quarterback this year with the weapons they put around him. But what I see in the preseason is Ridley is the clear number 1 there now. And Kirk might be the guy. Zay Jones might play full snaps. Nobody drafts Zay Jones. I don't even draft Zay Jones. But he played.
Where are you getting at right now?
I'm getting that. I won't be pushing the button on Christian Kirk a whole lot this year. And I'm a Christian Kirk guy. I like Christian Kirk. But I think NFL involves, and I have some Christian Kirk in 350s, but once I really got to analyze that offense, I don't think I'm going to be like pushing Christian Kirk up in my draft. He's going to have to fall to me in a
So are you saying in 2 receiver sets?
I
you
think Zay
it's-
Jones and Calvin really going to be playing
Wow.
with Evan.
That makes all the sense in the
And
world
I
to me,
think
though.
Kirk is
It
going to
makes sense, but
And that's what they've been doing in the preseason.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what made me. I watch preseason and I evaluate situations in preseason, And Kirk's still going to have some games. He's a talented kid.
Yeah.
But if Ridley's healthy, and for whatever reason they love, I mean, Zay Jones got it done last year.
Yeah.
The coach loves Zay Jones, and Evan Ingram's not coming off the field.
Yeah,
So
but they paid Kirk, didn't they? They paid him okay money.
They paid him okay money a couple years ago. He didn't re-sign. I mean, he makes decent money, but
That's the thing with Doug Peterson too.
I have a bad feeling about Christian Kirk this year.
Yeah, Doug Peterson's like a week to week. Like he's definitely gonna play the matchups.
Yeah.
So, but if Calvin really can just provide you like a safe floor, he's gonna have boom weeks. As long as he can provide you a safe floor, meaning like he's like playing 100% of the snaps, running like X amount of like, then like he's like a value where he's going. Like especially like in the third, I think his average ADP is like in mid third.
So where would you take him?
I have like not taken him because I have like
You
not
don't have
known.
any Ridley?
I had a lazy approach.
I gotta
You
change
talked
it.
about having a lazy approach.
Yeah.
I had a lazy approach when the season started on Calvin Ridley, but I reevaluated it. And people talk about ADP, right?
Yeah.
And they talk about building teams, right? Just because you get Calvin Ridley at 3.8 versus 3.2, that doesn't mean your team's going to be better because you got Calvin Ridley at 3.8.
ADP does not matter.
No, but that really, people overanalyze that, right?
Yeah.
They think, oh man, this guy got Darren Waller at 3.11.
Yeah.
This guy took him at 3.2. I've looked at a lot of boards where I like the team that took Darren Waller at 3.2 a whole lot better than I like the.
Yeah.
So don't let that get you caught up like I'm trying to finesse a player.
Yeah.
If you evaluate a situation and you like the player and you have enough ability to structure a team and create a team where you're taking that player there, then it really doesn't
So,
matter.
let me switch the question then. With the way you just said that, what you just said, would you take Calvin Ridley as your wide receiver 1, or would you prefer him to be like your wide receiver 2 or 3?
Full disclosure, he's probably never going to be my wide receiver 1 because
Okay.
the way I'm going to build teams, he's probably going to be my wide receiver 2 or 3.
Okay, got you.
But
So what you're saying is you're taking the wide receiver early. in your drafts.
yeah,
I
most
got you.
But
got you.
but if Calvin Ridley's there at 3.2 and I take him at 3.2, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
If I believe that he's in the right situation,
Okay.
and I like.
So you don't think he's
trust him.
overvalued right now, then? At least?
I don't think he's overvalued because value is relative, right?
Right.
So if you get him at 3.1 and you say he's a value at 3.9, right?
Well, I'm more so saying you don't think him even being in third round as a whole is not too high for him. For him being out of football for
I
a
did
year.
at an initial first blush, but now I don't.
No, not much. Yeah,
I mean, that back end of the second round is it took honestly it's basically okay. The market has decided that Chris Olave, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith are like should be there.
Yep.
Really, like nobody knows because those are like wide receiver 2s that are gonna have like spike weeks and they're gonna have weeks where they disappear. And at the end of the year, they're gonna finish with like 240, 250.
Yeah.
But unless like something happens to the number 1, they're always gonna be a number 2. So like. There's going to be somebody that's going to rise to that position to overtake them.
Yeah.
They're
Happens
kind of
every year.
Yeah, they're the safe picks at the back end. I think once you get past like Tony Pollard,
You don't think Chris Olave is a number 1?
I don't know. I take Chris Olave, but I don't know. Like I don't know. I'm a big I love Jawan Johnson. Like everybody keeps like I love Jawan Johnson. Yeah.
Talented kid.
Yeah, very talented kid. Like, and you got Carr there. I also think Alvin Kamara makes a reemergence in the passing game. So like, I don't know how much volume he's going to be able to get. I think he's not going to kill your team. He can definitely be the number 1. He can definitely exceed expectations, but it's still an unknown.
Do you see Ridley in the same tier as Olave now? Then
I think I do. I'm purposely making it a point to like get some Calvin Ridley.
you have none
shares.
right now.
And I have 0 right
You
now.
sleep, man.
Yeah, I know I've been sleeping. I've been
The
sleeping.
draft boards have significantly changed. Like early in the year, you could start a team: Justin Jefferson, Mark Andrews, Tony Pollard, right?
Yeah.
And now you can't get 2 of those guys on the same team, right?
Yep. No.
So boards are a constant flux.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to adapt.
Yeah.
And that's why some people get in trouble because they never adapt.
Yeah.
You look at their drafts and they want you to analyze their drafts,
Yeah.
right? They want to, and then they want to tell you, hey, you analyze my draft this way. I think it's
Yeah.
this way. Well, don't ask my opinion then. but the draft.
You asked me.
Yeah, you asked me. I mean, I won 2 championships. I might know something.
You came to me, Chief.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people take me wrong because I mean, if you don't want my opinion, that's fine. I won't give it. But these drafts. My point was that these drafts are constantly evolving from week to week this year.
Yeah.
And it might change, and you got to be prepared to adapt to whatever that change is.
Yeah.
And I think that what people really don't get about fans, I think the biggest flaw that the novice people have that come in and try to make money out of stakes is they don't understand positional value, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's
Absolutely.
periods in a draft where the position that's valuable,
Yeah.
you might want to take a 4th running back or whatever,
Yeah.
but you got to understand what positional value has changed and that board changed. So some people never grasp that.
Let me ask you this, because you just did a draft with Abby.
I've done a bunch of drafts with Abby.
He kind
Every time I see him, I'm like, damn it.
he kind of showed us the board, and one thing I noticed that you did, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I don't know which draft it is, Dio, because I've done so many.
It's a Sunday. What day
Was
was
it
that?
Sunday? Was
Yeah,
it the
midday?
one where?
Sunday.
Is it the one where I pushed up Waller and you wanted Waller? I've been watching straight. Okay.
Push up
It
Waller.
wasn't that one.
And you got Doxson.
No, it's the one where
We need to
they
have a
took
discussion
Chase,
about Dotson.
and then they took Hurts.
Oh, were you in that one?
Some of these drafts, that's another thing. I'll talk about it.
Okay.
Some of these draft boards, what I've noticed, and it's about the positional value, right? And the board has changed, right?
Right.
So when I look at that board and I don't like the board, and I used to not be this way. I think it was a flaw when I really evaluate my processes all the time. If I have a semi-bad year or something, I don't blame the luck of the draft or what it was. I blame myself for making bad decisions, right? So when you make bad decisions in any form of life, you got to go back and look, hey, what did I do wrong here?
Yeah.
And so it goes back to positional value. So this year, you're more out to see me take a Hurts or Mahomes or Josh Allen and have them on some teams because why? They potential edge, right? Against them. So if there's nothing there I like, you could take a quarterback there, and it might be a difference maker.
If you knew that Burrow was going to be available, because I want to say y'all took Chase at like in the 2 slot, or maybe it was a 3rd slot. I don't remember. But if you knew Burrow was going to be there in the 5th slot, like if you knew, obviously you don't know, but if you knew you would be able to get Burrow in round 5, would you still take a Hurts?
I probably would on that draft. I have several Burrow, Chase, Higgins, Burrow stacks where I got Burrow in the 5th.
Okay, so
I don't know what period of time it was in the draft season. Say I have a bunch of those.
Okay.
And then I'm looking to get different against the field.
Got you.
And I got a Hurts, Chase.
So if you had one team then?
If I had one team, I'd prefer the Burrow, Higgins, Chase. Of course,
Burrow,
because
Higgins,
why?
yeah.
Weeks 15 through 17,
Right.
you could
And
get max
that's
value.
something we talked about in our group chat.
Yeah.
Right. We've talked about
Stacks.
whether you should stack to ideally optimize because if one player goes off, then you would essentially think the other player is going to go off, or say get the best players and get the guy that, regardless of a stack, this guy's going to be top at his position.
Yeah.
In that case, it would have been Hurts. Because Abby, you're high on Hurts this year, right? And I don't want to speak for you.
No, Burrow.
Burrow.
I thought you were high on Hurts.
Yeah, Hurts is my number 1.
So
But
you're
I don't
high on
think
Hurts?
Let me finish that.
He's your number 1.
But I don't necessarily think he's like one above the rest.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like where he's going, it's like I don't feel a need to like reach to get Burrow.
Got you.
Like the fact that reach to get Hurts.
I got
But the
you.
fact that like Burrow goes in the 5th, like I feel like Burrow's gonna have his like career year. So like to me, like if I can like,
Even with
if
the
I-
injury?
Even with the,
I'm not worried about the injury.
Yeah, I'm not the injury. I'm not worried about the injury. I'm not worried about.
I think he's fine. He was doing
Yeah.
sprints the other day, so I don't think it's
Yeah.
calf. I think Chase is blowing that up.
Yeah.
I think he's fine.
But to get more to your point, like this, because I think this all started with probably our draft, like where we had Kelsey, and then
It
we
did
were
start
talking.
with that,
And we were talking
Mahomes.
about like, okay, should we get Mahomes? And in my mind, I'm like, I don't have Mahomes in the rank number 1, so no, I don't feel like we should get Mahomes. I feel like we should get Hurts.
You prefer-
I'm just
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
get like the number 1 guy if I'm gonna go quarterback in that position. And yeah, I get your point. Like if you're probably doing a bunch of drafts, probably the smart thing is to go Mahomes and play the numbers. I just like it's probably
You had conviction it Hurts at that time. where
yeah,
you
it's
really
probably
felt
an
like you were gonna
arrogant
outplay
and
him.
not so smart way to do it. But I'm just like, if this,
I wouldn't phase it that way
Yeah.
because I think in a tournament play they both
Yeah.
have merit, right?
That's true. That's true.
The
That's
reason
true.
why is the field, right?
Yeah.
What are you trying to do? Get different from the
Yeah.
field, right?
Right.
So there's 88% or whatever it was, 72% Kelsey Mahomes.
Yeah.
And say you get to a shootout, like a
Yeah.
3-week window, anything can happen, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So you got Hurts, and Hurts significantly outscores Mahomes for whatever reason in that
Yeah.
3-week window,
Yeah.
and you're 5%
Yeah.
of Hurts, and the rest of the
Yep.
field has Mahomes.
Mahomes,
stacked
yeah.
up. So you're trying to win the big money,
Yeah,
right?
and it's just like it's a couple of point differences. Like
Yeah.
like it may be 2 or 3 points that may get you over the edge.
Yep,
You,
for
you,
sure.
You just said something I'm not going to let you get away without clarifying. You got Burrow number 2?
No, not number 2. Not number 2. But I do have him in the Mahomes tier. Like I put in the chat, I would not be surprised, and I may take like a bet on Burrow beating Mahomes. Like if you gave me enough, I would not be surprised if Burrow outscored Mahomes. Yeah. Burrow runs a little bit. I think people don't realize that, and Mahomes doesn't run as much
Because his
as I think
offensive
people.
line is terrible. He's
But
running for his life.
He's running for his life.
His offensive line had injuries last year. I think that's what but Burrow, to me, their running game is not it. And I still like Joe Mixon because of the value and because of the offensive end, because the potential receptions. But I think their offense is going to go through Burrow. I think that they have Super Bowl on their mind, and I think that offense really wants to take it to the next level. And if we can get a year where Chase and Higgins stay healthy throughout most of the year, it's going to be nasty. We don't even talk about Tyler Boyd, who's like an amazing.
We don't talk about Irv Smith.
We don't talk. Nobody talks about Irv Smith.
Yeah, we don't talk about
And
him
outside of Joe Mixon, like that backfield is nothing. We've seen it now through 2 preseason games. Like there's nothing exciting behind Joe Mixon, and Joe Mixon himself, based on numbers, based on analytics, and based on the film, to me, is not really exciting as well. So what does that mean? I think the division is a lot better. Pittsburgh, to me, throughout the preseason, has shown me they're probably going to be better on the offensive end of things. I think the Browns can't get any worse than they were last year, and they have a potential to really break through. So, like, they're in a division, too, where, like, and then obviously, you know, Baltimore, they're in a division, too, where they're potentially the shootout, and they were a winning team last year, so the division is harder. I talked about it before, like, I care less so about, like, whatever a defense is ranked in whatever category, and I care more about, are you playing a competitive team, and does it have a potential to be a shootout, and is the point total going to be high? Give me the Vegas point totals before you give me the defensive rankings for whatever thing, you know?
I agree with that.
Yeah. So let's talk about Travis Kelce for a second. Listen, he has been as consistent of a tight end as I think we've had in a long time. But at some point, it has to end, right? Like it has to end at some point. Do you guys see Kelce not living up to his, top 5 pick? I haven't seen him go, I think we might have gotten him in the 5th pick in one draft, but I haven't seen him go later than that for the most part in FFPC. Do you guys think that he lives up to that top 5 pick? Let's be honest. I mean, at some point he has to fall off, right?
Yeah. I'm not saying I'm fading him. I'm just, like Dave said, my approach this year has been, get one of those elite wide receivers. Get one of those elite wide receivers. And even though Kelce may score more than Hill and maybe a positional value, I don't know why. I don't know why my mind is going towards trying to really attack wide receiver. I don't think I've been in a position, though, where it's if I'm in the 2 slot, I just take Chase. You know? I do think he's getting older. I do think that we forget that,
you know he's getting older.
We know he's getting older, yeah. I do think we forget that, we forget about 2021, 2020 seasons from a standpoint of, he was not just elite. He didn't put up 359 points, I don't think anyway, in 2021 and 2019. Meaning that, I do think there's going to be some regression there. There could potentially be regression there in the entire offense. We don't talk about that. We've seen periods of time where the KC offense flutters. When everybody went to 2 high safeties, that offense started to flutter. So maybe they figure them out a little bit. Maybe some of the other wide receivers, Rasheed Rice or Sky Moore in the second year, Kadarius Toney's healthy. Maybe they find other ways of, getting other guys involved. It does not feel comfortable fading him, but I don't know. I think I've been fading him, and I don't know why. I can't give you anything more than what I just said.
It kind of sounds like you want to be a year early, and now you're
potentially
too late.
Potentially, but it's also roster construction for me too, because I can't give up trying to find a late tight end. I can't give that up, or mid, even a mid guy, or a Darren Waller. I can't give that up. So I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, how do you guys feel about it? Do you think that you should be fading Travis Kelce at this point? Given that, I mean, at some point he has to decline, right? I mean.
To me, the other weapons there have not really been proven yet.
Yeah.
Remember, he had Tyreek Hill for 2-3 years, and it was always one of them will be the guy, Kels or Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
But then the one season he lost, or Tyreek Hill left to Miami, it was just the Kels show. I mean, he had other receivers he threw it to, but it became the Kels show, and he blew up last year.
Yeah.
So from what I've seen, it doesn't look like he's slowing down.
Right.
He looks like he's still excited to play. He's not taking games off. He played the last preseason game. He's a tight end, so he doesn't really have to have burners. So, he's getting old, but as long as his hands work and he's still running his routes and he still has the size, he can still,
That's
be
the crazy
effective.
thing is he's not a burner. Watch film on this guy. He's great. Maybe the greatest tight end of all time. Probably not better than Rock Ross, but you know what I mean. But you watch him play.
Sharp too.
It's not like he's just out here just
No, he's not.
but he just gets open.
He's open.
And he scores touchdowns. And he catches the ball. And he's in a rhythm with Mahomes.
His style of play is something that can last for years. Don't forget players like Antonio Gates. Antonio Gates was walking on the field. He would walk, turn around, open, and he would get the
boxing people out.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I look at it like, okay, again, the competition, the trust factor is still there.
Yeah.
He knows, and I heard him do an interview recently where he knows he's underpaid, but he also is saying, yeah, I'm underpaid, but I know I'm in a great situation to continue to win rings.
Mm-hmm.
So he's
And that
still
provides some
focused on
value.
that.
Yeah.
He's still, so for me, and I think the reason why he's taken so high is because it's really more so him against the other tight end players. Like, Kelsey compared to tight end 3 or 4 or 5 is way above it. It's like a positional advantage right there. While you look at like the receivers, you can see a receiver you're taking around 2, like you're saying now, and you look at a receiver you're taking around 5, and you can end up have that same value. You know, so
Right.
I mean, I'm still, like you said, that draft we took in the number 5 pick, I would take that all day long.
Yeah.
And again, I haven't seen it yet, and yeah, it's good to be 1 year early, but F that.
I mean, like, just for the record, 367 fantasy points based on FFPC scoring in 2020. 2019, Mark Andrews was tight end number 1 with 294, and then obviously
Andrews was 334 and Kelsey
334. I'm sorry. Andrews 334 with.
But even looking at this, he was still the number 2 tight end, and the guy right after him was 70 points less.
Yeah.
So he still had value.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
and if you look at 2022, he was almost 100 points.
Look at that.
It should be like about 100 points.
Bro,
yeah,
how
about
can I
100
just pass that up?
Yeah.
In a tight end premium league.
In the tight end premium league.
Thing is, usually you're not passing it up. I don't know. I
want to hear what Dave got to say about this.
Right,
He's over there quiet, just doing
It's like, you're crazy for paying
I do. I'll be the voice of. I'm 100% fading Travis Kelsey this year.
Ooh, look at that.
There we go.
I actually think he's the easiest fade in football this year.
Okay.
Really?
Yes, I do. I don't think you make a lot of money chasing career years from aging tight ends, and I know he's been with Mahomes. I know all that, but I'm gonna be. I think this is the year that he doesn't reach his. I think you saw the best of Travis Kelsey, and I actually disagree a little bit with Dio because I watched these guys. Rasheed Rice is a lot better than people think. Sky Moore had a year in the offense, right? Couldn't do nothing last year. The Justin Ross kid is a freakish talent.
So
So
you like
we
the
don't
other
know.
pieces this year?
I like the other pieces a lot
Okay.
more.
Okay.
I like the Prince kid, but he can't pass block, so he's not going to play probably. Pacheco is decent. I mean, he does a lot of stuff. I don't love the way the kid runs, like his vision. But he runs hard.
Runs into a wall.
He has a runs hard. He does run into the wall.
Right through a brick wall.
But he has top end speed. And I mean, I'm just not taking Kelsey that high in the draft. Like a lot of times, Kelsey goes first or second in a lot of drafts. Right? So you're going to pass a potential career year from Justin Jefferson.
That's the thing.
It doesn't happen anymore.
I can't do that.
You're going to pass a potential career year from Jamar Chase
Yeah.
to own a 35-year-old tight end because what he did last year, and he plays with Patrick Mahomes. One of these years, it happens to everybody. Age catch up with me. I used to do a lot of shit better than I do now.
So two
but I
questions
don't.
for you.
So, Travis Kelsey to me, I'll go on record, easiest fade maybe in the history of fantasy.
Dan, you heard it.
Wow.
Here. This is gonna be.
So wait. 2 questions. What pick, or you can say no pick, but what pick slot do you have to be in where you say, okay, I'll take Kelsey? Or you just say, I don't care what pick I'm at. Yeah.
Honest answer, 12. I got to have 12 where I compare
Well,
them.
all right,
different from the field.
All right.
Because people are going to get
We're going to do this the same way that you did Abby that
But
time.
I'm having to do volume. I'm having to do volume.
Right.
If I'm doing one draft, I'm not taking.
But this is the thing. This is what I keep going back to because you brought up the career year. Another way to look at that is like we forget like last year he would fall to the 12th spot. Like that wasn't like the most abnormal thing to see.
No.
Like
the
we
guys
forget
won
that.
it with it, but
Yeah.
it just. I mean, but that's another thing.
But he was still a first round pick.
don't have to be-
though.
He was still a first round pick.
Still the first
all
round.
right. But just hold on.
Wait, I got a second question before you go to that.
Wait. Let's stay on this one for a second.
Okay.
Stephon Diggs or Travis Kelsey?
I'll take Diggs.
Yeah, he would take Diggs.
Amon-Ra or Travis Kelsey?
I'm all right, Brands. The truth. I'm
Okay.
a truther.
Okay, so here's a real one. A.J. Brown or Travis Kelsey?
I'll take AJ Brown. I'm an AJ Brown.
Okay.
Oh my God! You trying to bring up every guy? I love all of them guys.
He's certified.
Don't try to finesse him. Don't try to finesse him.
I know it happened last year, but I just don't think you make a living going back to the well on old players.
Yeah.
So my second question. So if that's the case, what is your, if it's different approaches. That's fine. But are you an early tight end drafter this year, or are you a late tight end drafter? Or
I'm kind of like a Beeb. I'm a combination drafter. So there's guys I like that I think are undervalued, and I'll try to target them in drafts.
Okay.
But I have punted tight end in drafts, and I've done it for years where I've had a lot of success. One year I finished at 5 of the top 10 teams of football guys, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the year in the regular
insane.
season. I didn't do anything in the shootout, but that's another point.
Yeah.
But every one of those teams, I took a tight end like the 15th round, right?
Okay.
So if you're right, but the problem with that is you got to be right?
Yeah.
If you're dead wrong, you're taking Luke Musgrave and he's a bum and
I think
whatever.
this year a lot of
Whoever.
these late tight ends, I think there's a chance a fair amount of them could actually produce a fair amount. This
There
year
definitely is.
compared to in the
The
past.
whole board's full of them.
Yeah.
They have a chance.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, it's like buying a stock with Kelsey.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You buy a stock, everybody wants a stock that's $400, and then a week later it's $10, and nobody wants a stock.
Right.
So I want the opposite. Kelsey's already at his peak, right?
Oh, yeah.
He can't go any higher. Some people take him
cannot.
1 overall.
Yeah.
So he only has downside, right? But nobody talks about the downside. They only talk about the good times. I got Kelsey 1 overall. I've done one in the draft, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about drafts for a second, because we got someone who said, hey, take a look at my
Oh,
draft.
not another grade draft board. Huh?
Yes.
I don't want you calling the beef up on Twitter.
I'm not alone today. We definitely get you to grade.
They don't want me grade now, promise.
Tiptoe Burglars. He says,
I've seen this guy on Twitter.
Burglars.
yes. He says, big ups to First and 15 crew. Would love for y'all to roast my build in this FFPC main event, too. So it's not a 350. It's a main event from the 3 spot.
This is a main event.
This is a main event.
Wow.
So let's take a look at it for a second. He's from the 3 spot. He started off with...
I'm looking for my team. I'm not even looking at the team. I'm looking for my team.
So he started off with Jamar Chase, then with Jalen Hurts, JT, Kyle Pitts, Breece Hall, Alvin Kamara, and this is for the audio podcast listeners. Then he went Alvin Kamara, Jahan Dotson, Michael Pittman, Dalvin Cook, and then Rashad Bateman. Let's stop right there, because then he ended up going Nico Collins. And so I
Don't forget the Hayden Hurst 15th round. Okay. We can stop there. We can stop there.
All right. So let's talk about his board, his build. How do you guys think about his build and how he went about drafting his team? Jamar Chase with the number 3 pick, that's not a bad pick, right?
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about his build for a second.
Yeah, for me, I don't mind it. It's, I don't think it's necessarily for me, just because there's certain key guys that I'm just like off of.
The JT and Pitts?
No, I've taken JT in the 3rd round. I've definitely backed off since. But, I don't know when this was drafted, but 3 weeks ago, starting off Jamar Chase, Jalen Hurts, JT, I'd be thinking to myself, okay, that's a decent start. Pitts, I'm not there on Pitts. I'm not there on that offense. I don't trust the quarterback. I don't trust.
We got to
the
talk
head coach.
about Pitts one day. Man.
Yeah, I don't trust any of that. I mean, I think even if he does well, I just don't necessarily know. I don't see the upside there. So I'm not a Pitts guy. But if you're a Pitts guy and you feel like he can really break out, then that makes sense. You got maybe you get yourself an elite tight end. I'm also not a Breece Hall guy.
You got Breece Hall value though, right? Compared to other drafts.
Yeah, but again,
I'm not a Breece Hall guy either.
Yeah.
But I've seen Breece Hall go as high as the 3rd round.
Yeah, I don't care
Many
about
times.
ADP.
Yeah.
So for me, I sent the video out in the tweet. I don't know. I don't know. I'm watching Breece Hall. Could he be there towards the end of the year? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not that guy. I think I would have gone someplace.
You don't think he
different
looks good in the clips?
Not really.
So you're off of him?
I've not really been on him. I feel like it's a committee. How do you pay Dalvin Cook that much money?
They paid Dalvin Cook.
They paid him a lot
But
of
you
money.
see, he took Dalvin Cook too, so
Yeah,
you kind
I
of
could be
hedged
wrong.
yourself a little bit.
Yeah, we talked about it. I just feel it's odd that people are just like Dalvin Cook is just going to be a backup immediately. Like Dalvin Cook is just there for the first 2 or 3 weeks. What GM do you know is paying a guy that much money to just be
A-Rod paid him, man. A-Rod paid him.
Okay, well, either way, Kamara we've talked about. I kind of like, but 6th round, I usually like to get him at value.
It's kind of high for Kamara. isn't it?
Exactly. So
Here lately, he's been going on that somewhere between there and 7.5.
Really?
Pretty much in the main
Just came
events.
up.
Oh yeah.
So to me, it's like a lot of potential trap plays. It's a lot of potential. Okay, yeah, I got this guy at value, but maybe that's where that guy should go, or maybe he should be going a lot later. So you took a lot of risk with this draft, which I guess you playing in the main event against 8,000 people, whatever it is. Yeah. The Jahan Dotson pick, I would never say that's a bad pick.
That's a decent pick, yeah.
7th round, I don't ever take him there because to me he's like, okay, let me see what I can get. So I like to get those guys in the 8th round. I don't like to rely on guys like that in the 7th round. I would have gone definitely someplace else. But then you came around, you were able to get Michael Pittman. You know, Michael Pittman may not do much, but like getting him there, like
he's still a receiver one on that team.
You're getting a number 1 wide receiver in an offense in the 8th round. Okay, like I can give you points of why.
Do you trust that offense though?
I trust the idea of it being a first read RPO offense, meaning like first read you're designed to go to Michael Pittman,
especially with the rookie quarterback.
First read RPO you're designed to go to Michael Pittman.
Then the question is Michael Pittman the option in that?
Yes, absolutely. Alex Pierce.
I've heard a lot about Alex Pierce.
Alex Pierce is the D guy. I can guarantee you. I'll put money on that.
Don't sleep on Josh Downs either.
Yeah,
like, don't sleep on him at all. Actually.
But I still think Pittman is a wide receiver one. Could I be wrong? Yeah, but I'll put 95% that he's a wide receiver one, the first read in the majority of their offensive looks. 9th round Dalvin Cook. I think it's interesting to pair a 5th round Breece Hall with the 9th round Dalvin Cook. So I'm gonna take back my take on the Breece Hall because I think you got the Dalvin Cook at value, and then maybe you start off with Dalvin Cook and you see how things go and you play the best guy.
9th round is pretty late.
Yeah, and then I like Rashard Bateman. That late again. We don't know who's going to be the wide receiver one in that offense. We don't know who's going to be the receiving leader in that offense. So I love it that late. The rest of the guys are the rest of the guys. But
so here's the thing though, like last season before we knew what that Miami offense was going to be, you told us that Tyreek Hill was going to like hit because he was going to alpha his way to targets. And he was going to alpha his way to receiver one for Miami. And that was before we had seen him in that offense. Yeah. I'm going to give you credit for that. But you don't think Odell Beckham is going to do the same thing with Baltimore?
Hell no. I thought you were going to say Zay Flowers or Rashad Bateman.
No. You don't think that the personality of Odell Beckham being in that offense is going to alpha his way? You think he's less of an alpha than Zay Flowers?
I'll put it like this. When you hear Tyreek Hill talk this year, he's talking about getting 2,000 yards. When you hear Odell Beckham talk this year, he's talking about, I got one more good
coming
year.
back.
He's talking about retirement.
He's talking about retirement.
He's still the old guy.
That's not alpha talk.
All right.
I still got it in me.
You got Zay Flowers walking in the locker. I'm joking, by the way. I'm joking, by the way.
Mark Andrews is the dog on that team. That dude was so mad at Lamar for throwing a touchdown.
Slammed
That's an alpha.
That's an alpha.
Yeah. And we brought that in. I was like, I like that. That's what I like. I like to see that. What do you think?
But you also say you didn't like Andrews.
Say what?
So we got to get back on that.
I didn't say I didn't like him. I said I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not taking him there.
Yeah, he's tough to take there, but I'll take it in there. But he's a dog for sure.
Yeah.
What you think of his team?
I think he took it's a main event, so he took a lot of risk. FFPC, as we know, is a shorter season than most leagues. It's head-to-head. Bye weeks come into play.
Good point.
I like Breece Hall. I don't mind Breece Hall, but he has Kamara, who I like, but he's 3 weeks suspended. Yep. JT might not go anywhere, might not play. So what do you do with that team at that point? So
you think JT might not play?
I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Like, you think he won't play week one?
We're getting close to...
I don't think he'll play week one. Another problem that people are talking about is JT doesn't come off the pup, right? And they don't trade him. He's out for 4 weeks.
Right.
That's not the question. Same thing with Tommy Howard.
That's why they made the deadline.
He's on the pup. So if they don't trade him by then to a team and they don't take him off the pup, he's done for 4 weeks.
And you just don't consider things like that.
That's why I said we need to talk about it. Because
Irsay,
Kyler's not the only player like that.
Irsay is a smart guy. I mean, Irsay is not no dummy. He didn't get all that money he got being dumb, right?
That's true.
He called JT's bluff. So I don't know, man.
JT doesn't play week one, man.
But that team took a lot of risk, and he took Kyle Pitts kind of early. And Kyle Pitts, probably Arthur Smith for some reason, does not want the kid to play full snaps. So I got to I'm going to own a little Kyle Pitts, probably in a tournament setting, but I think I need a better deal than that. So the problem with the team I see, I don't mind the team. It's not horrible. I've seen way worse teams. But the problem is it has a lot of risk. Because say Dalvin's still not 100% come week one, and Breece is out too, and then he's playing. He's got no running back. He could potentially have no running back week one.
We got to give it a grade. I'm gonna give it a C-. The last one I gave a D. This is a C- to me.
I'll give it a C. I like some of the players, and maybe the risk pans out, and I like guys willing to take risks.
You passing so far.
So I give it a C. But I've seen a lot of drafts, so I know what he's up against. And that team, I don't think it can win an overall or anything.
Dale?
So
I wish he would have taken another, like his second wide receiver a little bit earlier. Maybe even instead of Kamara, take a receiver or pass on Pitts in the 4 hole and take a receiver. And I think it would have looked a lot better. I think it can be a team that wins games during the season. But like what Dave was saying, I don't know if this is the type of team that can win a tournament. And when I'm doing all these leagues, all I'm thinking about is the tournament.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about what does they give you, $5,000 for winning the league, the 12 team. Like that's nothing to me.
Yeah.
Like I want to win the tournament, and this team just has a lot, kind of like what Dave was saying. This team has a lot of players where they're in murky situation. Remember, I'm always telling you, I don't like players where during the week they're questionable, and I don't know if they're going to play that week. Yeah. And I'm looking at the injury report every single day.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks about that during the draft. You don't think about that. But I will tell you, this is why I keep harping on, like, let me get 2 elite wide receivers. Let me get 2 elite wide receivers. Because he put himself in a hole. So he went Jamar Chase, and then Chris Olave, Jalen Waddle went. So he's like, okay, let me just get an elite quarterback. My quarterback won. He went Jalen Hurts. Then Calvin Ridley, T. Higgins go. So you're looking at DK versus Keenan Allen. You're like, you know what? Let me just go JT. So then he comes back, and then there's like a wide receiver run. And I can understand why maybe he was on the clock and he was thinking to himself, man, damn. All the wide receivers win. I don't like D-Hop. Yeah. Drake London. Do I want Drake London or Kyle Pitts? Yeah. Deontay, we've talked about. Brandon Ayuk. Like, these are guys, these are fancy wide receiver names, but are these really, like, strong wide receiver too? So you're like, okay, let me get Pitts. And you come back in the 5th, and you're like, I don't want to take another wide receiver here. I just took Pitts. I definitely don't want to take Drake London.
Well, Breece Hall is sitting right there in front of me.
Breece Hall sitting right there. And then you kind of come back, and now, again, you put yourself in a hole because now all these wide receivers win.
They all look similar.
They all look similar, yeah. So, like, that's the thing about this is, like, sometimes it's not about, like, taking, okay, this guy's going to score the most points in the second round.
Hey,
so
he got K. Dotton. All right, hey. You got an A. You got an A.
Yeah. So what's his grade, though? What are you giving him?
I gave him an A. Shit.
No. No, seriously, like, what are you grading?
No, I mean, my grades is I like it or do better, and this is a do better.
Okay.
Oh, come on, man. I give him a grade.
He said do better. He said
do better. That's the grade.
You can always do better.
Yeah,
but
you can always do better.
You got to lean into the mic and give him the do better. Yeah. You got to talk directly to him.
Do better. Right? No, it's cool. It's cool, but I
say
know.
Keep grinding.
Yeah, keep grinding. Keep at it. He has something there, but like what Dave's saying, if JT doesn't play, that kills this team.
He's hurt.
I will say this.
JT doesn't play.
I will say this. He didn't finesse the draft.
No, he took what he wanted. I mean, maybe he's only doing one league, right? Yeah. And he says he's going to get
then the next question is, which team do we like?
Ooh,
Chris, did you give a grade?
I didn't, but I'd probably give like a C minus.
Okay.
Only because, all right, we can see Jamar Chase being receiver 1. We can conceptualize that.
Right.
We can conceptualize Jalen Hurts being quarterback 1.
Right.
Right. So like he didn't punt on 2 of the most important positions. Also, Jahan Dotson, I can see Jahan Dotson being a top 10 receiver with Terry McLaurin being injured. I think he was going to be.
I like Dotson too. I like Dotson.
I think he was going to be the receiver 1 on that team anyway. So I think he's.
Whoa, what? You think Dotson's going to overtake McLaurin?
Yes.
Oh, you crazy.
Hey man, a wrist injury is important, man. Like for a receiver.
He doesn't have a wrist. He has a toe.
Oh, that's right, like the turf toe.
The
turf
toe.
toe. Yeah, but that's still worse.
That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's worse.
Bad, yeah.
So he didn't punt on the top 2 positions. It's just that, but you got to have a running back, man. I mean, but you got to field at least 2 running backs, and so but you can't go in to the season with Devin Singletary, Dalvin Cook, and Breece Hall play on the same team, so you're only going to play one of those guys realistically. Alvin Kamara is suspended for the first 3 weeks, so he's leaving
you gotta
himself.
Put yourself in his mindset. He has to believe. He has to be believing JT is going to play week 1.
Yeah, so if JT plays week 1,
so
and then
he's just trying to fill
Breece Hall between Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook,
yeah.
And good luck with that. I mean,
so if that's his build. That means he's saying he's going to throw out 4 receivers.
Yeah, he has
which
to.
means his 4th receiver is Bateman?
Yeah. Or Collins. That's what or Jacoby Myers. He's got to pick one between those guys.
Oh, that's a good point,
imagine,
too.
Look,
that's a good point.
Imagine if he, and I don't know how y'all feel about getting 2 wide receivers on the same team, but imagine if he went Chase Higgins or Chase Ridley, and then instead of Breece Hall, he went Joe Burrow.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
You definitely going to do that.
I mean, hindsight, but.
That goes back to what I was saying before with that Hurts. You know what I think happened? And I'm just totally speculated. I think he probably wanted to take one of those receivers in the second round.
Yeah.
And they were all taken, and he couldn't see himself taking those other guys at 209 or whatever, 210. And he was like, let me just take Hurts.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I agree with
Like
him
that,
not
yeah.
taking Chase and Higgins though. Like to me, to expect both receivers to hit like that, I get.
That's a good question.
I
I
get,
think this
I get how
year-
you feel, but like that's asking a lot. Like I feel the same way about
Tyreek
Tyreek
and
Hill
Jalen,
and Jalen Waddle. Like we're asking a lot for both of them to be top 10 receivers. I think Tyreek was the second FFPC scoring, was the second ranked receiver, and then Jalen Waddle was like 8.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
can you really expect
crazy.
2
Yeah,
and 8?
Crazy year.
Yeah.
There are a few offenses where I would do that. The Miami offense,
Eagles.
the Cincy offense, and the Eagle offense.
But you
Like,
feel
because
that
it's so
comfortable?
narrow. Yeah, because it's narrow and you're projecting volume,
I agree
and it's
with
all going to go there.
With
So-
Tua being so volatile though, like do you feel that
They
comfortable?
got Mike White.
Yeah,
They
They got Mike White.
They got Mike White.
They do
They
got
got
Mike
Mike
White.
White. Mike White
Yes,
was slinging.
sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
they're
they do.
straight.
And then you're going to have a couple turnovers, and then they really got to come back. Mike White was
I had
slinging.
Mike White on a lot of
Yeah.
teams last year.
I like the Tyreek Hill team, though. I like the Tyreek Hill team and the Cooper Cup team. Those are probably my favorite.
That Tyreek Hill team does
teams.
look pretty good.
Yeah, it's not terrible, not amazing.
I'm not a
but
big
terrible.
Njoku guy though, but I like it.
I'm not a big Cup guy this year, but I like the Cup team.
Yeah.
I think the Cup team and I think the McCaffrey team did a good. There's a few teams did a good job.
Yeah.
Are you drafting McCaffrey this year?
Full disclosure, I have one share.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody I'm talking to is just not on McCaffrey. Somebody's
Yeah.
drafting McCaffrey out there.
Yeah.
McCaffrey goes 2 overall in some of these
Yeah.
drafts. I've seen him
Yeah.
go 2 overall.
Yeah.
I've always liked CMC too.
I don't know. I mean, I'm high on Garrett Wilson, but I don't know that high.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm at the
He goes all over the place.
Yeah.
I've seen him go all the way down, like in the second round, to like 2-5.
I didn't even notice he was 108 here.
Yeah.
Man, he should have took Devontae Adams.
This is a main event with 2K on the
Devontae
line.
Adams and Garrett Wilson.
I like this main event. They fired. I wasn't in this one, but they fired who they wanted.
You in that many main events?
I'm in a ton this
Well, you
year.
have to ask yourself, am I in this? Was I in this one?
Was this one of the 70?
Okay, so good. So this is the question I want to ask you in pre-production, but I want to wait for the show.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your waiver setup. And you ain't got to tell me everything, but I'm just curious. You have, okay, you said 100 teams, right? You're going through your
I
waivers.
have like this year. Well, my most I've ever had is 510 redraft
510?
teams. Yeah. This year I cut way back. I'm getting older. I think I'm going to wind up around 210, 220, somewhere in that ballpark.
So you're going through your waivers.
And he's retired, people. He's
retired.
retired, so like don't
I'm lazy
don't get
retired.
crazy ideas out there.
Right.
Yeah, don't over leverage yourself.
Don't get crazy.
My first question is, do you know specifically your waiver targets before you start? Or are you going through them as you go through team by team?
It's an evolving process, and sometimes it's team by team by what team needs. But most of the time, I have a group starting after. I start on Sunday night most time, and Sunday night I have a good idea of the guys that I might have noticed that week, or I've heard stuff about, or whatever.
So you make your list out before you actually go into it?
Yes, and then I load all the guys, which is as you know, a tedious process.
Right. Oh,
Say
man.
I'm loading 30 guys in a waiver group for each team.
Yeah.
It's just an example. And I got 220 teams. That takes a long time, man hours to just get that in there.
Yeah.
So on an average day during football season, I'm not even exaggerating, 13 to 15 hours a day. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
So then my next question, because something that I do is I don't have a specific list before I start waivers, but I have an idea of the players I like. So I start my waivers at team 1, and I get them. But then as I go through all my teams, I start seeing other guys that I like in waivers. And I'm like, damn, now I have to go back to the first teams and go readjust it.
Actually, I stay on the team and look through, make sure I didn't miss anybody that might
Okay.
jump out at me.
Okay.
That's why it takes so long.
Yeah,
I
so you're real
load the
meticulous.
guys and like for preseason waivers, I've already loaded like all the teams I've done.
Yeah, I've started
I have
too.
a freaking, some of those teams got 40 people in them because I drafted them back in May.
Yeah.
And if you look at boards you did in May, you say, am I the same guy that drafted this team? What the hell was I thinking back then? But and that happens a lot. But you can also
Kenny
look at
McIntosh
teams.
on my team.
I still like that kid.
Just like Kenny McIntosh is just chilling. 15 round Kenny McIntosh.
It's funny looking back because you make everybody does it. They make
Yeah.
some horrible mistakes and you say,
Yeah.
man, I really destroyed this one. But you can fix them. I've looked at teams
Yeah,
I
you
hated
can.
and they were in the shootout. You know.
Man.
What do we think about Hawkinson?
Oh man.
Because he's starting to have a little bit of news that nobody's talking about. He's holding in.
Yes.
He's holding in.
You think so?
I don't think so. I know so.
The
He's
back
holding
end,
in.
my back.
Yeah. Oh, first my neck, yeah, that's my back. So, like, what are we thinking about him?
I have very little Hawkinson.
Very little.
Very, very little.
Yeah. So we just
Addison worries me.
He goes. I mean, I did the main event. I left my iPad in the car, but the main event I did while I was sitting in the parking lot before I came over here to rap with these guys. I sat in the parking lot about. I live in Angleton, and I drove to Pearland because I knew I wouldn't have time to drive over, and they'd be done with this.
Yeah.
So I drove to Pearland, pulled in the parking lot, and did an invitational Superflex draft, which I hate Superflex. Yeah, but it was an invitation from the deep end guy. So I did. I was doing the invitation. I had another window open where I was doing my main event because I was supposed to do a main event with a guy I forgot at 11:30. So he changed it to put us in the 7 p.m. one. So I stopped at the parking lot and knocked those 2 drafts out.
Oh man!
And so yeah, it's a constant grind.
Y'all are real degenerates, but that's our show for the week.
Man,
That's our show for the week, guys. This was a great one. Please like, rate, subscribe. We're out.
I enjoyed it. Out.